The little bit I saw that nobody else saw, I won't talk about.
The parents of Leila Fowler could not believe someone brutally murdered their 8-year-old daughter in her own home. Despite that, they weren't given a chance to grieve as police thought that her brother, who was just a kid, was a suspect in the slaying. The two were home alone at the time of the incident.
The older siblings were into sports, softball and all that, and it was the 12-year-old son or stepson that was always babysitting.
While the rest of the family was attending a little league game, their stepmom Crystal Walters received a call from Isaiah, Leila's 12-year-old brother. Isaiah shared the scary news that an intruder was in the house. At the time, Crystal was unaware that Leila was hurt. Leila was stabbed and was bleeding out on the floor of her room. As the parents hurried home with the children's other siblings, Crystal made a call to 911 under the assumption that both children were fine.
My children are at home alone, and a man just ran out of my house. My older son was in the bathroom, and my daughter started screaming. Okay. He came out. There was a man inside of my house. I need an officer there.
The man is gone, though?
They said he ran out, but they're really scared. I'm trying to...
Of course. How old are your kids?
12 and 9.
Okay. So you had a break-in?
Yeah.
Okay. Did they see the man? Were they able to describe him?
They did see him, yes. My daughter is freaking out right now.
The parents were the first to arrive. Their dad, Barney Fowler, can't forget what he saw when he entered the children's bedroom that day. He lifted Leila up in his arms and could see the numerous wounds dotted across her body. Blood seeped out from under her shirt. She had multiple stab wounds visible on her body as she bled profusely. She was stabbed over 20 times.
I went in and carried my daughter's body out. I was going to take her to the hospital because I felt she's still alive.
Leila was pronounced dead at the hospital. The news of the slaying spread far and wide in the rural communities of Valley Springs and Ranch Calaveras, California. An intensive weekend search began on that very day, Saturday, April 27, 2013. Residents had to show identification cards before passing barricades in the neighborhood. Authorities were relentless in finding her killer or evidence thereof. The search involved as many as 100 officers, also inclusive of divers. There was no area too small that was left unbothered. The officers searched homes, crawl spaces, attics, outbuildings, reservoirs, and even the tall grass in the hilly rural neighborhood where Leila was slain. Isaiah had provided detectives with a description of the fleeing intruder. A neighbor came forward, telling investigators she also saw the intruder fleeing on foot. Her description of the suspect was similar to what Isaiah recounted. Authorities were searching for a 6-foot-tall Mexican man with shoulder-length gray hair. When there was no evidence or clue of the suspect during the search, authorities turned their attention to Fowler's home. A few days after the incident, the witness that corroborated Isaiah's account of an intruder stunned the neighborhood.
Meeting, the witness recanted her previous statements and her identification of the man she saw running away.
Soon enough, Isaiah was being interviewed again. Detectives had found inconsistencies in his account of what happened. It was clear Leila was stabbed on top of the bunk bed, but somehow she ended up across the floor, without any bloody footprint indicating she walked there herself. Detectives took all the knives in the house for forensic testing.
We did collect some fingerprints during that search, and we also collected what we believe to be DNA.
A woman who had been out watering her garden all morning did not see any stranger arrive or leave the Fowler premises.
I got a German wolf, 95 pounds. Every time somebody walks down that street, they start barking. When this all happened, there was no barks. Nothing.
Based on the type of murder, police knew they weren't looking for what sprung from a botched robbery, but instead what appears to have been a deliberate, targeted attack. Isaiah quickly turned from a witness to a suspect. Detectives were able to locate evidence in the home that indicated the killer never left the residence. Through it all, Isaiah and his parents maintained he was innocent. When Superintendent Mark Campbell inquired about Isaiah's behavior at school, his teachers at Toyton Middle School said that Isaiah never showed any behavior that had caused concern. "Nothing, honestly, that would resonate something like this," said Superintendent Mark Campbell. Isaiah was charged as a minor. In 2015, in a case without a jury, a judge found Isaiah Fowler guilty of murder. This is what his attorney and parents had to say about the verdict.
He made a statement which was ambiguous at best, and that's when he was arrested. That's when he was tried, based on the statement, something along the lines of, I guess I did it, but I don't remember it if I did. He also said, before he was finished with that phrase, but I really didn't do it.
Anyone who has exposure to 12-year-olds can't believe that a 12-year-old could have miraculously cleaned a murder scene in less than 20 minutes.
Day one, they started showing me, this is what we have, this is what they had. I said, if you have evidence, arrest him. Here he is. But you have to convince me, and they still haven't done that. They manipulated and twisted everything to help benefit them, and there's plenty of proof and facts saying he didn't do it.
But a California appellate court reversed the ruling, saying 2 of Isaiah Fowler's interviews violated his rights. They found that he wasn't read his Miranda rights, and certain statements should not have been admitted in the first trial. However, prosecutors did not let up. He faced a retrial in 2017, and at that time, he would have been 17 years old. During that new trial, the admissible evidence against Isaiah was again heard in court. The transcripts and previous testimony that were allowed from the first trial were admitted in the judicial proceedings. The court listened to the 911 call made by Fowler that day. During the call, Isaiah didn't mention that his sister had been stabbed until a minute and a half into the conversation. The transcript also revealed that it took a while for Isaiah to call the authorities. The emergency call was made after he had called his stepmom at the Little League game. At some point, while on the phone with the dispatcher, his parents arrived home, and the court could hear the horror in the background from his parents, witnessing Leila laying in a puddle of her own blood. But most importantly, Isaiah Fowler's account of the incident was revealed in court. He told the dispatcher that he was in the bathroom when he heard someone say, "Hey, I know you're in there." This was just before he heard his sister scream. He came out to see a man with long gray hair running through the back door. Prosecutors revealed that the murder weapon was a steak knife her brother used to stab her in the arms and chest. 22 times. Detectives have found Leila's blood on the interior of the knife that had been cleaned. The knife was lying on an unmarked white towel in the house. Isaiah's Ghostbusters t-shirt was also stained with Leila's blood. It was found stuffed in a hamper in Isaiah's room. Ultimately, his DNA could be found on Leila's body. In Isaiah's defense, his lawyer Reichel said the then 12-year-old would not have been tall enough to stand over the bunk bed and repeatedly stab his sister. Reichel also said Isaiah would have had to be a criminal mastermind to clean the crime scene of extensive bloodstains and also clean his body and clothes. Isaiah's defense team pressed on about the fact there was an unknown hair found in Leila's underwear that didn't belong to any family member or any emergency service worker or detective. However, there was no evidence of sexual assault or semen found on her body. There was no intruder, Yuk said. Why would the minor tell the intruder's story? Because he did it. He stabbed her over and over and over, out of existence and out of memory. Family members held on to the fact that Isaiah Fowler never admitted to the crime, even when he stood to benefit from confessing to killing Leila. They offered him a plea deal, and he refused it, Crystal Fowler said. His father believes that he refuses to admit to it because he didn't do it. Judge Susan Harlan was the presiding judge in Fowler's retrial. She reached the same conclusion of guilt as Judge Thomas Smith, who oversaw Fowler's first trial. "There's no doubt you took the life of your sister," Harlan said. "You did so viciously using thought and planning. The victim was 8 years old and would have expected her big brother to protect her and not take her life." Harlan reiterated her certainty that Fowler was guilty. She found Isaiah Fowler guilty of second-degree murder with the use of a knife. In 2018, Harlan sentenced him to 16 years to life in prison. However, Fowler is already credited with 1,900 days served. He could be released at 23 or 25 years old. The teenager may gain an early release due to his age at the time of the crime. To this day, his parents still believe in his innocence.